morning, everyone. This will be a recorded session as usual. So what I will talk about today is how to manage process libraries. So I am Colin Claverie. I'm the CTO at Skore and one of the founders. So I'm in charge of everything related to the product. But I'm also a consultant, and I've also helped companies setting up process library to make the most out of their transformation initiatives. So what is it? Why we think it's important? And then we'll sort of start exploring the toolbox that we have in Skore to create these libraries. So I'd suggest to get started now. So what's important when we think about library, and not necessarily a process library, it's a destination. It's a place that we know, that we can recognize, where we can find some sort of content. So it may be on a university campus, or some companies have libraries, but it's a single place. And we've all seen companies having processes or contents literally all over the place. So this makes every single thing we start doing, it makes it very complicated, because we first need to find where the content is before actually starting reading or understanding the content. So this is why having a known, recognized destination to find something is very, very powerful and can be a very good asset in a company. The second criteria, let's say, of a library is to make it easy to find content. So typically there's a catalog or an index, or maybe now a search engine or something like that, but there's a place that helps you telling you, all right, this is on this bookshelf, or this is in this department, or you're going to any library, they have a mathematics area, science, or fiction, non-fiction, and then you can narrow down, and they sort it by alphabetical order or by other things. But there's sort of an ordering system and I'll show you tools that we have in Skore to do that specifically for a process library. And the last one, which is a bit taken for granted if we are thinking about the university library, but there's a common language, probably everything written in English or in the local language. But this common language for a process library, especially made with Skore, is what makes all the difference. Having a place where I can find content, and I know I can read the content because it's all mapped in a similar techniques, make it very, very powerful for doing changes. So this brings me to my next slide. Does it matter? And I think now we are speaking specifically about a library, a process library in Skore. So we all have seen companies where they have processes mapped in all shapes and forms, maybe Visio, PowerPoint, Excel, a Word document, stored in all sorts of places. The Outlook inbox can be a storage place in a lot of companies, and people are just forwarding emails to the next person because they just don't bother putting it in SharePoint or an intranet website. And there's all sorts of initiatives people will. So in blue here in my slide, I have some very generic thing: grow the business, reduce the costs, improve the experience, comply with laws and regulations. So very generic things. Then it can be a bit more specific: implementation of a CRM, merger and acquisitions. To companies merging, we need to reassess the processes, training, etc., etc. So plenty of different things. And what we see a lot, and I'm sure you have seen that, is the same person in the same day may work on two different projects, map the process twice in two different languages for two different purposes. And to me, this is where we are lacking we are missing opportunities, because it's not because we are working on a quality project and the afternoon on a CRM implementation. The processes are the same. The processes are very similar, and having a common language will really help making the most out of these tools to have a better alignment between people, because someone who is more, let's say, sensible to quality and standards probably has some very, very valuable input to a CRM project. All right, we cannot do everything we want in every different countries and with every customers. We have different laws, different regulations, different contracts with different people, different licenses for using contents. So having a common language, again, once more, is very makes the whole purpose of having a single place to find content, a single destination to go, much more valuable. And something that is very dear to our heart is identifying new opportunities. And we've seen that a lot of time when you actually show a process or show a piece of content to someone that they can read, they can understand what's going on, and then they will instantly think, "Oh, did you think about that? Did you consider that? Or have you asked these women in Belgium? I know in Belgium they do it a little bit differently, and I know this works well for them." So it's about identifying opportunities. So again, because we have this central place, because it's all mapped in the Skore language, in the Skore notation in the same way, we can find opportunities to simplify or to not overlook, not forget something, and find it or realize it too late. And the same for constraints. Things get complex, they get complicated over time. There's often a reason for that, and we arrive as consultants. Why do they do this way? And then it takes us a lot of time to understand why something ended up in this way in the first place. There's probably a very good reason, or there was at least when it was created. A process are not made complicated by design usually, or I want to believe. But the earlier we understand the constraints, all right, they've done it this way because at this stage the system wasn't allowing to have, I don't know, custom fields for this kind of information, so we had to use another Excel files to enrich the data or whatever. The better we understand these constraints, the better we can design a solution and think about its implementation as well. So the whole thing I'm saying here is why it matters to have a central place with a common language is that it will make your project from a tactical thing done in isolation to something that can have a much better impact, and where the implementation can be better structured and the future success, the chances of success are better. So this is why, to me, the libraries are very really important. So when we set up libraries in companies, and I've done that in many companies, we are looking at making it a destination, creating a catalog, and ensuring that everyone is using the common language. So I'll now go into some of the features Skore offers to do that. But the common language is basically the Skore notation, right? So this is the what box and why boxes, the mapping hierarchically. We have loads of content about it. Chris did a good presentation last week on how to keep processes simple. So the common language is covered by the design of the Skore application. I'm going to focus on the destination thing and the catalog idea. So the tools we give you, there's quite a lot. It doesn't even fit all of the page. All right. Okay, so there's a number of tools. Well, Skore is a process library. It's been largely inspired by the work we've done with these global companies, creating this kind of assets. So first, everything starts with a workspace. We have more and more customers starting to have more than one workspace because they realize at some point the content, it's easier to create a destination if we have separated workspace for different business units. It makes it easier to read. It's like if a library gets too big for the science and literature department, we create two buildings. Why not? As long as it's clearly signposted. Within the workspace, we can have folders. I will do a quick demo of how I've organized a company. We have folders, so typically by team or by department. This is the most most usage I've seen for folders is by team, by departments. Then we have the process names. So having a little bit of discipline on the process name will really help. So I've seen companies using even a sort of a nomenclature with 4.1.1 and numbers like that. I'm not a big fan of numbers. They're not very meaningful, but having some sort of maybe a prefix to the process may help you, again, finding the process easily. I will talk about landing page as well shortly. The process is in Skore, so something that won't be possible in a real life book library, but we have access rights, so we can decide who can see what content. This can be useful, especially when you're working on a process you're not ready to share. At this stage, a lot of people have access to the workspace. You may not want everyone to see everything. We also have tags. Tags, they help you qualifying a process. I'll show you a couple of usage. We have, they help you qualifying the process, and landing page. So let's go now in demo before I go to the rest. So here, what I have is a fake company I created, but very inspired from the work we've done over the last couple of years. So it's a company creating musical scores. And the way their workspace is organized is, on the left, we have the main business units, and they kept the homepage, really the page we reach when we are back into the sort of the main page of Skore, very, very simple. There's a landing page, a value stream, and a target operating model. So different entry points. But the landing page, so we have a couple of episodes of the drop-in sessions on landing page, how to create this kind of thing. This is all done with Skore out of the box. There's no additional content here. And when I click on the different parts, I can navigate directly to the different places. So this is a nice way to create this catalog or this index. Some people may be more comfortable having a value stream mapping. So again, a very, very quick demo content for the sake of the demo here. I have this value stream, and then clicking on the process will bring me to the relevant part of the organization. So we can create all sorts of ways to make it easy for people to find. All these processes in Skore, they have a unique immutable URL here in the top, in the browser address bar. So this URL can be copied. We can copy and basically use it pretty much wherever we want. So in a lot of companies, we made sure to have a link to the process portals on their intranet. And when I had an internal email in these companies when I was working, I always had it in my signature. So basically every time I was sending an email, I could just copy the link from my own signature into the email, which was very, very convenient to really repeat over and over. There is this website where you can find cool stuff for doing your projects. So this is a very powerful thing, that everything is web-based, and by the nature of the design of the web, there's a URL, so a unique resource locator. So now we have folders on the left. They are by departments mostly. And if I'm going into the content, so it's a company creating and selling musical scores. In each of the department, I will find a portal, a little portal, and an end-to-end process. So again, make it easy for the users to find what they're looking for. And by pinning, so these processes here, hire to retire end-to-end and the HR process portal, they are pinned. So they always stay at the top of the list, whatever happens below. The second part, it's separated by this little line, but the second part will be sorted by last updated. But these two processes will always stay at the top. So again, training the user once, saying, all right, if you're lost, just click on the portal or the end-to-end, whether you prefer a visual landing page or a process landing page, but you should find what you're looking for. And then below that, I have the list of processes we recommend in Skore to create short, sharp, fairly granular processes. This is how Skore works the best. It also helps the lifecycle. That bridge me to the part I haven't talked about yet, about the history and revision management. But the smaller the scope of your processes are, the easier it is to manage its life cycle, its revision management, approval, the process ownership, and everything. So here we can see that I am the owner of everything, but we could well imagine that in a real life scenario, terminate, develop, and recruit employee could have 3 different process owners and 3 different sort of life cycles of updates and review by different teams. So that's why we recommend having processes that are doing one thing and one only thing, and creating these end-to-ends helps, I think it's empty, helps pointing the users to the right place. What I've also done in this workspace, I've used the tags. So folders are a very natural way to sort processes. I have the tags. So the tags are helpful to tag content across workspace, across the folders. So for example, now I want to see only the processes that belong to this project reinvent that we have ongoing. So when I have the tag selected and I navigate through the folders, only the processes of this tag will appear. So acquire new license, the acquire license UK specific process, and also the define the content strategy. So it helps me filtering out some processes for a given usage. So in this example, we only use tags for projects, but we could also imagine it could be a status, like is the process to be reviewed in June, or you review Q1 or review Q2. So sort of metadata of a process. We've seen some very, very wide range of usages of the tags. But if the folder put the process in a given department where it belongs, the tags are across the whole. They are qualifier to a process across the whole workspace. And we can imagine that once the project reinvent is finished, we just remove the tag because it's not relevant anymore to have this sort of shortcut to help me finding processes. If I'm talking about projects here, we might say, right, project reinvent. There's a bit of confidential information here. We don't want to share the new process until it's been formally announced and it's been explained to people. There's a couple of role changes that we don't want people to discover by accident. So what we can do, I think I put it here. Here, this one. Month-end reporting. Let's say we will reorganize a couple of roles. We'd like to keep that to maybe not confidential, but communicate it the right way. So in Skore, there's an access rights. There's two ways to manage access rights, either by individual users. So here I restricted the view by default, but then I can view it, or we can also do it by user groups, which is much more convenient because once you assign the user group, you can manage in a single place. So the same user groups can be used on different processes. So the finance team private will have access to a subset of processes that anyone else will not be able to see. So either individual, but it can become quite hard to manage. Recommendation is to do by user groups, because then it's easier to manage users in a group and the group is already attached to a process. I hope this makes sense. So in Skore, I'm all up for opening up, having processes shared with a wider audience, because I think this is what creates, and we said when we were talking about the opportunity, the more open your library is, the more chances you have to do this alignment opportunity constraints identification. But sometimes for communication reasons, you may want to restrict the access during a sort of a development phase of the process. We've also seen some people doing that in a completely separated workspace, just to be on the safe side. Managing access rights comes with a little bit of overhead. So the benefit of doing it in a completely separated workspace is that we know people have access to the workspace, and that's it. We only manage their access rights once. So this is an option to do. Publication and history, I quickly alluded to it. But the more granular your process, I think if we go in content, the more granular your processes are, the easier it will be to manage their history, the revision management. So here in the history screen, I see there's the history, the revision management is mostly automatic in Skore. It creates revision when it thinks, so it's every 5 minutes, essentially. It will create a snapshot of your process and save it, so that you can always roll back in time. But the benefit of these revisions is that they can also be published. So I can select an approver. By default, it will be myself approving the content, but I can select another user in the workspace to approve the content. The benefit of having an approved version, the benefit is that the approved version of a process will open by default. Okay, so when we have these cards, it will show the process is approved. Actually, why not do it? History. So I will publish this one. drop in demo approval. I will self-approve it just for the, so here it will be written approval requested on the date, approval by me, status is awaiting approval. If the approver is someone else, this person will receive a little email, and I will approve myself. I can do it right now without waiting. So now we see the status is published. So now we see here, acquire new license process is published. It's written actually twice. It's written here and here. It's published. So now when I open this process, it will be the published version. Even if I continue editing it, if I continue making changes, the version that will open by default is the published version. Again, creates trust, and you can, it has two benefits. We know exactly what people see when they land on the process. This is the approved version. The other benefit is that I can still continue working on it. I can still do little changes, little tweaks to work on it. So now if I'm here, let's create a new revision. Demo after approval. Voila. So now this thing, I will not see it. So I will open, I think it was in acquisition, right? Yeah. So now I don't see this little box I've just added. If I click see latest edits though, I will go to the latest version and I see my changes in progress. So, and then here in the history, I see that the software has created a new revision for me on top of the published. So very good practice to publish early and often. As you see, doing self-approval is a couple of clicks, so there's no reason to not do it, and it controls which version the users are seeing. There's all sorts of options as well to unpublish, to republish, and then I can create as many publications as I want. It's very, very simple, as you've seen. All right, so sharing, I alluded to that. What I recommend when you start using Skore, when it starts to gain adoption in your business, is put the URL to these landing pages, to your Skore everywhere you can. So an intranet pages, a nice link to the process portal, maybe in your email signature. Just for the email signature, I found it so convenient because it was helpful for everyone. They receive an email from me, they know they have a link to the signature, to the portal, but also for me, when I needed the URL, I could just copy from my own signature, copy paste directly into the email. And it was very, very convenient when I had an internal email in this company where I was doing consulting work. Last thing is more for admins, but I still put it because it's quite good thing. So Skore, every changes in Skore, they are audited. So we fill up an audit log where someone has renamed the process, someone has assigned a tag or removed the tag, moved the process, someone has made a change to a process. So pretty much everything is logged in Skore. So that helps for the traceability. That helps looking that, the right people are doing the right thing. It could be useful in some places. And we also log visits. So we know who has visited which content and when. So again, this could be quite useful to see what's the usage, what's the adoptions of your processes. Are people actually doing something with it? From my experience in consulting, we shouldn't base only the adoption of a process on the visits, because it turns out that I've seen some teams that we were tracking specifically the visit to a couple of processes, and the number of visits were very, very low. But actually they were one of the most proficient team. They were the most mature in terms of process adoption. But the fact is that they had a proper process training. So when they were doing changes to a process, they were really putting everyone in the room, on the big screen, the process. All right, this is the process that we will implement. This is how we will work. They had this big conversation. So because they had such a great onboarding / training of the process, they didn't really need to visit the process anymore because they knew it and they discussed. So be careful when looking at the visits. It's not always correlated to the actual adoption. And actually, a process that is fairly complicated, when you get lost in it, there's so many drill downs, so many links, it's too big. and stuff, it may generate a lot of visits because people keep coming back to it to try to figure it out, where actually you will see a very high visit rate, which actually means people don't understand it, so they need to spend time on it. So I'm always taking that with as a pinch of salt, the visits metrics, but it's quite interesting to see, nevertheless. Oh, sorry, I forgot about the great Spinnaker things coming up. Let me click back. So in Spinnaker, there's a couple of things on top that will really add to the process library conversation. There's a global search coming. So beyond creating these landing pages, a user will be able just to type a few keywords and see all the results. And I will demo that again in a couple of weeks when we start releasing the software. The global search, so everything will be searchable in Skore, which is very convenient. The roles and system managers are now the workspace level. So I can click on a role and see all the processes where my own role, let's say I'm a finance administrator role is involved. I can click on the finance admin role and just see all the processes. All the analytics tools that you have today in Skore at the process level will be at the workspace level. So they can cover scope of several processes at the same time, which will make the whole analytics thing much more relevant. And we are doing a lot of work on the participants of a process. So you will be able to see who has participated in a process. So this will roll out slowly in Spinnaker first version, but then we'll continue to add features around it to see who takes part in a process, who has commented on a process, who has approved, and we will be able to measure the engagement on a process much better. So there's a lot of things coming up in Spinnaker very soon, so we are super excited about it. Any questions, suggestions of features or general experience with managing process libraries for customers? I'm all up for. I see there's been a couple of messages in the chat.